Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you so much for making time once again to talk all things football. This is our third episode of the Talking Bola. So we've seen the World Cup so far, and yeah, plenty to talk about. So without much ado, gentlemen, we are going to have a look at what the World Cup is teaching us so far, anything we've learned. I've seen a lot of commentary on social media, people saying quite a lot of things that African football is improving and stuff like that. So we'll look at that. Um, Mr. Malambo, thank you so much, sir. Um, may you guide me how I'm going to address you. Or should I address you as coach?
Yeah, that's fine. It still works.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for really finding time to be part of this, even with your busy schedule. Really grateful. So we are just about getting started, and I was telling the gentleman that we are just going to look at a few things. One being thoughts on what and just what you think we are learning from the games that we've watched so far at the World Cup, and then we'll move to obviously African teams and what we make of their performances. And then we'll pick a game or two, which we can just uh, do a review over. And then finally, we look ahead to the Senegal versus France game. So those are the things we are going to speak to. So without much ado, I was asking the gentleman to say, I'll start with you, Mark. What do you think we have learned so far from the football that's been played at the World Cup? There's been a lot of talk about it being one of the chaotic World Cups we've seen. Obviously, with its own off-field shenanigans.
Well, again, pleasure being here and greetings to the gentlemen and glad to have Coach Franklin here as well. Um, going to the question that you have asked about the World Cup, it has been a very exciting World Cup. Definitely not lacking in goals. We haven't we have only had one scoreless game, which was a Spain Cape Verde game. Again, full of excitement, full of technique. We saw how the Spanish attack failed to penetrate. Of course, we'll dive into that deeper later on. Uh, One thing that we have learned definitely is that there is no such thing as a small team at this World Cup. Every team deserves to be here and they are proving their quality. We saw it with Qatar when they played Switzerland. We saw it even yesterday with Spain and Cape Verde. Cape Verde went, proved a point, literally. And we have had some exciting games, again with Iran, New Zealand, and the excitement on the pitch has been there, definitely.
Excitement on the pitch has been there. Okay, your quick thoughts on what you think we are learning at this year's World Cup.
I will just go with what Mark has said. The tournament has no underdogs. I think every team now feels like they can play football because football day in and day out, month in, month out, year after year is improving everywhere all around in the world. We've seen what the African teams have done so far. Egypt almost had one over Belgium. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Because Belgium are just phasing out their golden generation. We saw Ivory Coast get a win over Ecuador, in which was a very tough contest, which could have swung either way because both teams were very good. I think only Tunisia was a little bit of a disappointment. They fired their coach. They've had one of our own because he still belongs to us. I'm hoping he can win a game as he takes over. But the biggest lesson is that football is progressing everywhere. African teams are catching up. I would say teams like Morocco have actually already caught up. Senegal has already caught up. What we saw from Ivory Coast is a sign that they might have also actually caught up. So maybe that's why we've seen that the regulars like Cameroon, Nigeria didn't make it to the World Cup. It's because African football is now becoming more and more competitive, and everyone is improving. So it is also a lesson for the teams that didn't qualify to say no, we actually need to improve our football and make sure that we get there to the next edition for the continent. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Coach, I would like you to chip in from the tactical point of view, making sure we utilize your expertise to the greatest extent. Where do you think we are getting it right? Or even as African teams, as well as just these so-called minnows at this year's World Cup. We saw what Saudi did last night. We also saw what Qatar did. So where do you think, what is driving this a change that we are seeing at the World Cup from the tactical point of view?
First things first, what this World Cup shows is that if you do not respect your opponent, you are going to be severely punished. And similarly, if you over-respect them, you are going to be punished. With reference to, firstly, you saw what happened to Tunisia. I think they did not respect their opponent. From a tactical perspective, you would wonder the kind of work that the tactical analysts put in, because the way Tunisia played was not really reflective of the opponent that they were playing. And like we always say, do not play the game in a vacuum, but it has to be in respect or in reflection to whoever you face. That is both on the attacking side and the defensive side and everything in between there. Similarly, when you look at South Africa, they played with a 5-3-2. Now, traditionally under Bruce, they've always played your basic 4-4-2 as we know it, or maybe a 4-5-1. Sometimes with a link man joining with the main striker, close passing from box to box. However, against Morocco, they set up in a 5-3-2. Which tells you that defensively we're trying to protect the central parts. However, if you're trying to protect the central parts, then you do not go on and begin to play within the part that you are trying to protect, because then once that is closed down, you suffer, and that's exactly how they conceded the first goal. Similarly, I think they did a disservice to themselves as far as the attacking play is concerned, because more often than not, they tried to go with route one on the few instances where they did win the ball. However, if you have an Ekram Reyners as well as Lyle Foster, who do not really have a big frame, then you're going to have a problem with playing route one. And so I think that is why they struggled. So from a tactical perspective, I think that's what I would say about those two African teams. But then generally, what we've seen in this tournament is that I think teams have prepared well for their opponent. Look at Cape Verde, for example. They knew that they were not going to go on an attacking mission against Spain. So sit back, keep your shape, and then attack whenever it's possible. Yes, the attacks did not bring much. They actually just had only one shot on target and faced, I think, 7 direct shots against themselves. Ivory Coast, as it has already been said, they seem to have played their cards right. Egypt seem to have played their cards right as well. And so from a tactical perspective, generally, I think more teams have prepared in reflection to the opponents that they are facing, with only the exception maybe of South Africa and Morocco. And there's a reflection of the results of that match. That's what I would say in a nutshell.
Thank you so much. I enjoy listening to you. Can go on and on. By the way, guys, Coach Franklin does write. Also, he writes tactics and stuff like that, and I'm one of the subscribers of his writing. So okay, when you see me channeling out a few tactics on X, it's not because I am a genius at football. It's because I'm reading from the very best, and I'll keep saying it. It's an honor that he spared some time to join us. That being the case, we can move on Egypt. Just to pick on the continents teams that have fared. I'm glad that you've highlighted what South Africa didn't do well, because I was really wondering what was going through their video analysts when they were reviewing or previewing the reviewing the matches that Mexico had played before the opening game. But so much so about them. Egypt, I feel they could have won the Belgium game. Because they had taken the game to Belgium, but they couldn't really just convert their chances. What do these performances that we are seeing, and feel free to pick it up, Kay, what do these performances we are seeing, is Africa closing in to to actually having its hand on the World Cup, because of the teams that have played so far, of the European teams that have played so far, only Sweden has won. And that should tell you something. Back in the day, European teams with Sweden and Germany, back in the day, European teams would sweep aside each and every opponent that comes their way. So how close are we from going by the performances? I know it's just one game, but it should tell us something about where we are going as a continent looking at the performances.
I will. Okay, I'll allow myself to get carried away. Like I mentioned on
Please,
the first
please.
on the first episode we had, Senegal, Morocco will will surprise us at this World Cup tournament. It wouldn't even be crazy to imagine that we could have either of them play in a semi-final. Yes, Morocco played. I think we could have another team play a semi-final. It could be Morocco again, or it could be Senegal, because these teams are well balanced, well, they've nurtured their talent so well. Most of the players that they have in these teams have played at an elite level, or rather, they play with the very best teams. Um, you you look at what's happening in Europe right now, and you look at us right now. It's showing that we are making progress. Remember when I mentioned to say it's actually disappointing that a country as ours, that was probably one of the best teams in Africa, hasn't made that much progress as compared to these other teams. Because when
Yeah.
you look at the talents that they are producing now and what we have now, it's you could literally cry. So I feel like these teams have improved. They the tactical the tactical perspective of the game in Africa has also improved. It's just not a matter of kicking the ball and running after the ball. You can see there are shapes being maintained. There is proper selection of players. There's proper training of coaches. There's proper scouting. So it tells us that we can actually compete. I would say African football now is just at the level of South American football, in my opinion. We've gotten to South America, and it's only a matter of time until we get to Europe. And this is only happening because countries are now investing in their sporting facilities. They're investing in young players. They are investing in academies, and I feel like Zambia now needs to learn from that. I always come back to the Zambia national team because I love that team, and I wish we participated in this edition of the
Yep.
World Cup. Then you
Yep.
look at the Egypt Belgium game. Egypt were spot on. I would say they were perfect up until the one goal. They were perfect. They were perfect. They took the game to Belgium. They were not scared of names because they had the name. They had Mo Salah in the team. They were not faced by the pressure. They were not faced by names. They knew they could beat the team. They knew they were capable. They didn't sit back and defend. They attacked as much as Belgium attacked. So it was a counter where I'd say it was a fair contest between them because they believed they could win. The tactics were spot on. They had the right personnel. They had the big names. They had prepared adequately. So I feel like this is now a general thing for African teams. And it's just going to motivate everyone else in the continent to say we can actually play at elite levels. I submit.
Ah, wonderful, wonderful. Mark, what do you say about that?
Well, about the Egypt game, of course, I believe they should have won if they had more quality in their finishing. They could have buried their chances. At this level, you have to take your chances. We saw that even in the game with Switzerland in Qatar. Switzerland played with their foot. They got punished in the end. We saw that even with Spain. I think they had 27 shots, 7 on target, 27 in
Yeah.
total. They couldn't
Yeah.
finish. At this level, you have to finish. And that is, I think, the next level that we have to hit as African teams, even with Morocco. Morocco could have buried that game in the first half. They were on top. They were piling pressure on Brazil, but they couldn't get the finishing right, apart from the solitary goals that they got in those games. Of course, Belgium, they had a golden generation. It's no longer a golden generation. Of course, they have world-class players like Courtois, Doku, and a few others there in the midfield like Tillemans, Onana. But it's not the same Belgium. It's not the same. You don't have to fear them. And I'm glad that Egypt did not go defensive, low block in the first half. They went for the win. They went for the jugular. They did that. They could have seen it out, but unfortunately they conceded that on goal. And even after that, they still maintained their shape. They could have added a few more punches here and there, but they ran out of steam in the end. And overall, African football has been impressive. Apart from the teams that haven't won, of course, appalling performances from South Africa and Tunisia. And I would just love to add an observation that I have seen is that most of these teams that are doing well, like Morocco, you have Cote d'Ivoire as well, who did well. You have Cabo Verde and which other one am I missing? Maybe let me even add Senegal. You find that most of their players are not playing in the African leagues, although some might even have strong leagues. Most of their players are from abroad, and they are natural. They are getting players that are maybe developed by France, developed by Belgium. In the case of Congo, DR Congo, you'll get players from there. And I think that's something that we can also take a lesson from as Zambian football. That, for example, Cote d'Ivoire don't have a local player in the team, maybe even someone who was born in that place. Can we do that as a national team? I know I'm not dragging the conversation away but just a thought.
Let's have a special edition for Zambia. I can see you both at K.
But
that has
improved. That has improved the squads for like Cote d'Ivoire. They have one of the youngest squads at the tournament, but also some of the most exciting.
It's actually
talents.
The youngest squad.
Yes. So some exciting talents that they got, like Guele Doué, they got him from France. So they're busy poaching players, and that has helped improve the tactical understanding and even the progression of African football. I think that's a factor that has also amped up our efforts in getting our hands
Coach
on
Franklin, Tunisia fired their coach one game into the tournament. Obviously, this comes at the back end of a very, very disappointing performance that saw them concede 5, and they had conceded 5 again to Belgium in their friendly in their friendly. Now, as a coach, Heverina has since been appointed. As a coach, going into a situation where you are in the tournament, obviously we saw Cote d'Ivoire did the same at the 2023 AFCON, where they fired their coach after losing the first game, and then they went on to win the Africa Cup of Nations. But as a coach, going into a situation where Heverina finds himself, and he should be starting, according to the reports, he's starting to work this evening. What do you do? Where do you even begin from? Isn't he being set up for failure, being appointed at such a last minute time? I don't know if this is last minute anyway.
Look, it could work both ways. Speaking from experience, I think I've had 2 instances where I've been asked to come in to save a team that's about to drop. And normally what you do in that instance is you don't try to correct a lot of things. You just basically look at what is failing, and then the players just need to listen to a different voice. For example, in the case of Tunisia, obviously they conceded 5. So the first point of action obviously could be, can we try and prevent the leak, or can we try and be a bit more solid? Now, defending in itself is not really just about the defense itself, it's about the whole team. Remember, one of the key moments of football is defense, and that means it entails the whole team. So from the guy up top to the last man in defense, what are we supposed to do when we do not have the ball, for example? Can we be a bit more compact, or can we not be not so expressive as we go forward and then leave ourselves susceptible to a bad counter when we concede? Now, in terms of trying to solidify, I think they have turned to the right person. Historically, when you look at Heverenas Zambia in 2010 at the AFCON, in 2012 at the AFCON, the Morocco team he coached, the Ivory Coast team he coached, including Saudi Arabia at the last World Cup, you realize that he's a person that prides his teams on being very solid off the ball. They work extra hard off the ball, and I think that is what Tunisia need. So as far as preventing the leak is concerned, for a team that has conceded 10 in the last the last 2 matches, it tells that they need to sort out that thing. So is Rena able to do that? Yes, he's able to. Is he being set up for failure? That's why I said it could work both ways. Sometimes players just need to listen to a different voice and then they are going to pick up. Also, for a guy whom they know has won on the continent and has fairly a good record, even beating Argentina at the World Cup, surely whatever he says, the players might take it like the gospel truth as far as finding success is concerned. And so based on that, I think it could be a positive move. Normally, you only tend to struggle in such a case if the players were maybe too attached to the coach that has just left. But I mean, it's national pride at stake, and based on that, you expect that the guys are going to up their game and do what is required of them. I think the team they lost to is maybe the strongest team in that group. So it means that they actually have a chance. And let's not forget that this time around, even the third best placed teams, some of them are going to make it to the second round. So if they play their cards right, get a draw here, sneak in a win there, well, they are good to go into the next round. And who knows what could happen after that.
Wow, they are good to go indeed. Who knows what could happen after that? We had touched on a little bit. Case has left. I was hoping he begins to talk on this point. But Mark, let's look at Cape Verde versus Spain. But also let's keep in mind we've seen a few favorites play so far. We've seen Spain, who is most bookies' favorite to win it. We've seen Brazil is World Cup loyalty, so you can't speak of the World Cup without them. We've seen them play. We've seen also the perennial dark horses in Switzerland play. We've seen Belgium. But let's start from Spain, because they are the favorites, and this is the match I would like us to maybe spend a few minutes dissecting. So start with UK. You've been uploading Arteta's a style of play. I know we're not talking the Premier League, and yesterday you were quick to come back and say, look, this is what I've been telling you guys, that Arteta is actually okay. Why do you think what do you think made Cape Verde hard to beat? Is it Spain's failure to actually create meaningful spaces that could have them score, or is it lack of finishing quality on the Spanish side, or Cape Verde were just perfect in defense?
Okay. I think it's not really one thing that stopped Spain from winning. I would say it goes both ways. First of all, I would commend the Cape Verde goalkeeper for the heroic works that he did last night. He was perfect. He was the most perfect player on the pitch. Then I'll go to the tactics that Cape Verde had. Cape Verde knew they couldn't go pound for pound with Spain. They knew they couldn't go blow for blow because Spain are technically a better team. They have the better players. So all they did was we're going to maintain shape. And this is where I applaud guys like Arteta. What's this guy's name? The one that's at Atletico Madrid, Mourinho.
Diego Simeone.
It's Simeone, yes. Sometimes you do not have to have the ball to control a game. And I feel like for me, the most important thing for players is controlling a game without the ball. How you control the game without the ball, I feel like for me is a really, really big factor on how you play football now in today's age. Cape Verde were controlling Spain, not the other way around. Spain were playing to Cape Verde's strength. Cape Verde just decided to say, okay, we're going to hold, sit back and limit Spain. They only in their tactical shape, they only conceded one foul. So they were not even fouling Spain. Spain was just failing. But it could also come down to the fact that maybe some players that we would have loved to start didn't start. Danny Olmo, Lamine Yamal, Nico Williams. I feel like those three players not starting for Spain could have probably slowed them down because they give them a certain flair, a certain edge, especially the fact that Williams and Lamine Yamal can take on 2, 3 defenders at a go. So that probably puts out three, 4 defenders out of the equation when you have those two players. But even when they came on, there's so much that they could do. But maybe it could be the fact that they were coming back from injury. But I think Cape Verde defended well. They maintained shape. They employed a system that limited Spain. Spain, yes, they created chances, but how many of those chances were clear-cut chances? Not so many. The goalkeeper, the Cape Verde goalkeeper, again, I'll say he was perfect. One of the most perfect goalkeeping displays you ever see at a World Cup. Yeah. So
Fantastic.
it came down to the defensive shape of Cape Verde. Yes.
Defensive shape of Cape Verde. Coach Franklin, I'll come to you, Mark, pretty soon. But Coach Franklin, do you still, having seen Spain put on a display that they did yesterday in the game against Cape Verde, do you still feel, or are they even among? You said Spain is your favorite team. Do you still see it? Or I saw you write somewhere that Spain is your favorite team, and I know that you said. But do you still think this Spanish side has what it takes to go all the way and reach the pinnacle of world football, 16 years on from their last game on African football, on African soil?
So in terms of my favorites for the competition, I know a lot of people will never agree with me. Even when I did appear on Golden PC earlier today, I said this. My favorites for winning the competition are Holland, simply because for me they are the most balanced team at this tournament. The only thing that is lacking is a guy that could consistently finish for them. And once they crack that, I think they'll be a very difficult team to beat. They are a very wasteful side. They are not efficient in front of goal. But defensively, they are solid. Your midfield functionality and progressions through the different phases of the game, it's up there. Obviously,
Coach, sorry to stop you. Are you getting inspired by the mathematician who has predicted the last 3 World Cups?
No. Yeah, in fact, I saw that. I think, there's a day I did make a post on Facebook sometime last week. And someone sent me that link and said, are you? I said, no. Well, at least I was also lucky for the last World Cup. And look, the last World Cup, my prediction was for Argentina. It did go through, especially, obviously, I faced a few blows after they lost to Saudi Arabia. But I mean, I still stuck with it. At this time around, I'm still going with Holland. But then, back to what I was saying earlier, we cannot ignore Spain in this whole equation. However, the way that Spain play against a team that sits so deep, you need a technician to go and unlock that. If you cannot unlock that with a technician, speaking, if you remember the days of Del Bosque, what would happen is that he would play with the inverted wingers. On one side, maybe you'd have David Silva, on the other side, maybe an Iniesta. But the moment it gets to maybe your 70 minutes and you have not scored, there was usually 2 substitutions that he would make. He would bring on Jesus Navas, and then he would open the left side and allow Cap de Villa to start going up and down, and then he would bring on Lorente in the box. So then at that point, they have a reference point in the box, number 1, and then number 2, they are going to begin to play with your pure wingers. Now, against a team that has defended so deep for long, the moment you manage to put the ball behind the defender's back and to have someone running onto the ball, the teams that have defended for long begin to struggle with that. And then remember, now you have a reference point in the box. And so you do not have to go your short passing game anymore. Just put the ball in the box and someone will get to the end of it. And that's how they won certain matches, or most matches actually, 2008, 2010, and 2012 at the Euros. Now, in yesterday's match, I think you only saw them I think they looked more aggressive when Lamine Yamal came on the other side. On the other side, you had Williams, and then you saw Kukwera begin to push up a little bit more, and so that is how they would have won that match. But look, take nothing away from Cape Verde. I think going into that match, they did realize, like Kay has already said, they were not going to go pound for pound with Spain. Part of wisdom in football sometimes is realizing that you have certain limitations, but even as you have certain limitations, there's something within you that you could do that could help you get a match. So the limitation for Cape Verde was that they were not going to go all guns blazing, but the strength that they had was that they could defend and hold on for as long as possible, and that did pay off.
And that did pay off indeed. Mark, quick thoughts on the game before we on Spain really being the people's favorite, and what do you make of Coach Franklin's Holland take before we move on to tonight's match?
Well, about Holland, they've always been there and about when it comes to international trophies and competitions, and they are yet to nick it. I think since is it Euros? Is it 88 or somewhere there? One thing that they have lacked, I think I mentioned it last time, they've always been known for producing very prolific strikers like Kluivert, Van Basten. We had Van Nistelrooy, Van Persie, but this time around, they don't have that figure that can clinically finish for them, which presents a very intriguing problem for Ronald Koeman to solve. We saw that he played Crescencio Samavi on the right and Gakpo on the left. It worked and didn't work. The quality isn't there, especially with Gakpo, who is very inconsistent. We've seen even for Liverpool. The midfield is okay. Tijani Reinders will kick on. Defense-wise, I think they are stacked. In goal, they are stacked as well. So if they click, they can be a very, very dangerous team to play. And they've shown they haven't been beaten since 2006. So everything is on their side if they can only make it work. And talking about the Cape Verde game, Cape Verde did what they could do and added prayer on top, and it worked. It worked for them. I think Spain are trying to hold on to the tiki-taka version of football, which didn't work for them yesterday. Playing with three midfielders, I think, was the wrong way to approach the game, knowing that they would definitely have most of the possession. They could have added maybe a Danny Olmo early from the start, and it could have helped them have numbers in the box and around the areas, because Cape Verde packed the middle of the pack and just allowed them to go on the wing. They didn't win any 1v1s, I think, in the first half, maybe until Lamine Yamal came on. That's when we saw some effectiveness, that Cape Verde even started doubling on Lamine Yamal, which created space in the middle for others to jump in. And that is what won them the Euros. It is the directness of Lamine Yamal, the directness of Williams, which calls for attention for the opposing team to have at least two players on each one of them, and that created space for them to do havoc. And they didn't have that yesterday. They started Gavi, was ineffective, on the wing. Femin wasted chances. If they can get Lamine and Williams fit, they stand a chance. But if they continue playing like this, it might be difficult for them, especially if they face a team which is more lethal on the counter, because they don't have the greatest defense as well. So
yeah. Okay, we move on to tonight's encounter, and I'll start with you, Mark. But before you come in, a few stats here. So the last time France lost their final friendly match going to a World Cup was in 2002 and we all know what happened afterwards. They went on to play Senegal in their first game at the World Cup, and we know what happened there. We saw Senegal winning, and we know what happened after Senegal beat France. They went all the way and reached the quarterfinals, becoming the first ever. Was it them becoming the first ever? Who reached them first? Is it Cameroon? It's them, yeah? Yeah,
Yes,
It
Senegal.
was Senegal.
Yeah, so they
Was
reached the
Cameroon in
quarterfinals, and
1990?
now Cameroon, and then Senegal was 2002, right? Okay,
yes.
correct. Thank you so much.
Yes.
So, or to say that so France lost their final preparatory game coming into this year's World Cup, and their first game at the World Cup is against Senegal. Are we seeing history repeating itself by Senegal putting France to the mark tonight?
And I remember that was 2002. I remember France went into that game with Henry being the top scorer in the Premier League. Trezeguet
And they
was
were the
top
defending
scorer in
champions, by the way.
Serie A. Yes, Trezeguet was top scorer in the Serie A, and there was another player I've forgotten, but he was a striker. He was top scorer in France as well. So they had everything to win that game, and is it Baba Boba Diop who scored the lone goal and broke French hearts. Similarly, even in this instance, they are stacked in attack. I think they have the best attack at this World Cup. It just, how do they figure out where Mbappe plays? Is he going to play striker? Is he going to play off the wing? And I think they're going to miss Hugo Ekitike a lot because he brought that balance between the two. They could exchange well. They're going to miss him a lot. I don't think the current crop of strikers they have are up there, but then again, the talent that is in behind is irresistible with the creativity of Olise and Cherki, and also the explosiveness of Desiree Doué. I'll still maintain that Senegal have the experience at the back with Koulibaly, Nyakate. I think they have the experience to go and at least get a point out of this game.
At least get a point out of this game. Interesting. I'll come to you, Kay, and then Coach Franklin will wrap it up for us by looking at where this game can be lost for Senegal or won, or where will this game be won or lost for either side. So, Kay, what do you make of Senegal versus France going into tonight's game?
I feel like Senegal can land a punch. They have the experience. They have Sadio Mane. They have Sa. Those guys can do anything on the pitch, provided the ball is in their feet. They have a very good goalkeeper who can put away some balls that might come from the lethal attack of the French team. Yes, it's really about how much I think today's game would really be about how much Senegal can take. Because, as mentioned, France has probably the best attack in the World Cup. Looking at all teams, they have the most stacked attack. Their midfield is okay. Excited to see N'Golo Kante play for the national team again. Whom I feel if him and Pogba were there, I think they would have retained the World Cup in 2022. Their defense is very good. They have a defensively sound team. Very good goalkeeper. I'm actually excited to see how Deschamps who Deschamps is going to pick in his starting 11 today. Desiree Doué is one of my favorite players at the moment, especially that he's young. I'm hoping that he starts. But I know he won't. But I'm hoping that he starts because he's one of the exciting young talents in the world right now. I know, so our eyes are usually focused on Lamine Yamal, but Desiree Doe is really, really an exciting player. So it
Mm,
again, like mentioned, it's about the balance, finding the balance in the attack for France. I know they
mm,
might. I have a feeling they'll start Dembele, Mbappe, and Olise.
mhm,
I feel like Mbappe will be coming off the left, Dembele playing in that false nine position, and then you're going to have Olise on the other side.
mm,
Who plays in the number 10 position also is going to matter. I feel like Cheki should start
mm,
because he's very creative. He's very creative behind the striker. So for France to actually win the game, it's about how they find the right balance in attack. Then for Senegal, it's about how much pressure they can take. Once they are
how much?
able to
Mm,
soak in the pressure, I think they can land the punch. So I would say a 1 in 10 chance for Senegal, but the game will
mhm,
probably go to France. But Senegal have
mm.
that that one chance to land a punch. Yes.
To land the punch. Coach Franklin, in wrapping it up for us, from a tactical point of view, where do you think this game could be won or lost for either side?
So I want to say that the strength for France at the same time serves as a weakness for them. They are the most,
Mm,
I think they have the most forceful attack, like you've said. But when you look at that front three, maybe Dembele could give you a bit as far as tracking back is concerned. Olise probably not so much from Mbappe, even when they exchange the positions up front. And I say that that is a weakness at the same time because against the Senegalese side, which is
mhm,
very good on the break, you are going to have problems if players cannot track back. The other
mhm,
thing that makes me worried about the French side is that once Ope Makano doesn't have a good game, then there is trouble in the middle there. And
mhm,
N'Golo Kante doesn't have the bite as he may have
mhm,
had in the past. But look,
mhm,
he's still a very effective player. But
mhm,
against very physically imposing players from Senegal, it could be a challenge. But overall, the French still have a better team on paper. If they're able to suffocate Senegal for longer periods, maybe that's where their joy could come from. But they must be wary
mm.
of the Senegalese on the break, really. This match doesn't strike me like maybe in the past where you would say it's an African team, David v Goliath kind of match. It strikes me
Mhm.
as a match where, look, it's the most efficient side that could win this match because I think Senegal can give as much as they can, as much as they can take, really, and that's what
Yeah,
makes it
yeah.
a
I mean,
very an interesting match. And for me,
yeah.
it's easily one of the matches of the round, even before it is played. And I'm really looking forward to this match. I hope at some point we could actually have a conversation as this match goes on, or even at halftime, and basically be
Let's
able
do that.
to break it down. Because
Let's do
yeah,
that.
I think
Let's
it's
do that,
a very
coach.
exciting
Let's do that.
prospect.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
do that. Let's do that. Guys, you've
I'm
had
game.
halftime
I'm
talk.
game.
Yeah. Okay. Are you available at halftime?
I should be available at halftime. I should be
Right,
available.
right. Sounds like a
And
plan.
also,
Okay, coach.
just a moment.
Mm,
I asked uh, a resident tactician and coach a question.
yes.
Seeing that Senegal might be under the coach for most of the time, how important will a ball carrier like Iliman Jai be to this Senegal effort in against France?
I
Very
actually
important.
sorry to cut you short, coach. I actually forgot about India. Senegal might actually win this game.
Come on.
Ha,
No,
ha.
look,
No, I actually forgot about him. That boy, and
It's
this is where
trouble.
the coach comment comes in. The fact that Mbappe does not track back, that boy is going to be trouble.
Yeah, yeah. Coach, you can come in. The floor
yeah,
is yours now.
no, look. look, don't get surprised if Senegal actually win this match, because they have the quality to be able to
Yeah.
do so. But you
Mhm.
see, sometimes the only thing that lets African teams down is just bad decisions in moments where one could have done better. It's not, and for teams like Senegal, it might not really be about quality, but maybe just one slip, one this or that. But look, apart from Iliman Ndiaye, I think the other player that could be very important for Senegal is a player like Lamine Camara, the young central midfielder. Because in a match like this, you need more than one ball carrier, or more than one guy that's going to be your outlet. If you only have one outlet, the moment they shut him down repeatedly, then it means your whole game plan has failed. But if you've got 2 or 3 ball carriers in the team, like the addition of Lamine, Kamara, and I keep forgetting his name, the guy that scored the goal in the final, the left-footed guy, he's the
Yeah.
force in the. Yes, Pap. Is it Pap? Yeah. Anyway, the number 8 that will always carry the ball for them. So I think it's important that Senegal actually have a dynamic midfield which has more than one ball carrier, because once one is shut down, then it becomes problematic for them. But if you have 2 or 3 that can still perform the same job, then you have a player on the other side. What that will mean is that your Ngolo Kante is not going to be occupied. Rabio is going to be occupied, and then it becomes easy, or maybe at least less daunting, to face that French side.
Well, that's a very interesting way to conclude. So, gentlemen, let's meet again at I should assume that should be 9:50 somewhere there, when the game goes to halftime, since it's 9 p.m. kickoff, right? Yeah, and just to mention also, we are working behind the scenes to make sure that we can be getting the audio onto Spotify. So, and also just trying to work around how best we can improve on just putting our content out there. But greatly appreciated. Your time is greatly appreciated. So let's meet again at 9:50. For now, thank you so much, and enjoy the game, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Cheers.
guys.